Not all Muay Thai coaches are created equal. A great coach can take a fighter to the top, while a bad one can hold one back. So let's dive in and see what actually makes a good coach. I've been in this sport for about 15 years. I've seen plenty of good coaches and I've seen some pretty terrible ones. First off, I think the first pillar of being a good coach is having knowledge and experience. A good coach must have deep technical knowledge of Muay Thai, actually understanding the sport. You don't have to be a former fighter, but I certainly do think that it helps. Being able to understand your fighters from a personal experience will help you empathize with your fighters and know what they're going through. Now, I think a good coach these days should certainly understand traditional Muay Thai scoring and contemporary Muay Thai scoring as well. This helps coaches understand how to adapt their fighters between different promotions and different rule sets. And of course, one of the big things about knowledge is being able to adapt your fighters depending on their physiology and their body styles. Often, fight styles are actually dictated a lot by a person's body type. Of course, a longer and lankier, taller fighter is probably more likely going to be a knee fighter, whereas a shorter, stockier fighter is going to be heavy with the hands and predominantly low kicks. Moving into the second part of what makes a good Muay Thai coach is communication skills. A great coach can explain complex techniques and strategies in a very simple and easy to understand way. Now, time and time again, I've said this before, we're seeing a lot of new coaches dress nonsensical teachings up in fanciful language because they just don't know what they're talking about. There's one really important thing that separates good coaches from bad coaches, and that's knowing how to motivate their fighters without just yelling at them. Now, I come from an education background, and part of teaching pedagogy is that yelling at kids actually doesn't get you anywhere. Now, this is also true for coaching. You have to be able to get down to a fighter's level and understand what they're going through and try and motivate them without being aggressive and just yelly. Communication is really important. A good coach will adjust their coaching style for different personalities. When you open a gym, or perhaps you're a coach at a gym, you will have a plethora of different personalities to deal with, especially in Muay Thai. Now, this is probably one of the most important facets of coaching in Muay Thai. There is a huge difference between being a pad holder and a coach. Now, at the moment here in Thailand, we're seeing a lot of foreigners come over to try and be coaches. What they'll do is they'll go to a gym and start holding pads, and they'll start trying to give advice to the Thai fighters with a lot of stadium experience. Now, guys, unfortunately, a lot of these young lads are just pad holders, and the Thais, they just like having you around because you can hold pads. Pad holding is certainly a skill, but coaching is about developing fighters long term. A pad holder can make you sweat and feel strong, but a coach actually improves your technique, your IQ, and strategy in the ring. A true coach should know when to push, when to adjust, and how to help a fighter just growing beyond hitting hard and getting your fitness up. Now, this is another really important aspect of coaching, holding fighters accountable. Time and time again, I've seen coaches get burnt by their fighters. Fighters are probably some of the most difficult personalities to deal with, especially in the world of Muay Thai. Coaches need to know how to push students to show up and train hard consistently. Also, trainers, whilst being sensitive to people's needs, also need to not tolerate laziness or excuses. Not only just for coaching, but a good teacher sets clear expectations inside and outside of training. So things like being a good role model and setting clear expectations about fighter nutrition. Now, this is one of my faults as a fighter, was I never took my nutrition seriously, and I would always party after fights. I think a really good expectation to set as a coach is that when you're outside of fight camp or out of fight training, you should set the expectation for your fighters to come into the gym and help. You are part of a team. You are part of a community. People have given you so much, so they should have to give back to their community, even if they pay gym fees. Coaching with purpose. When you're inside the gym, you can just hold pads and get fighters to get a sweat on. But holding pads with purpose is really important. Not just for fitness, but for skill development. You need to create a structured training session with a clear goal. I come from a really good gym back home where each training session was pretty much run like it was under a curriculum. Each day had its own theme. Some days would be a kneer versus puncher day, or we would be looking at how to mitigate the teep. And training would be structured around that outcome, that learning outcome, or that theme. So I think good coaches create structured training with clear goals and setting clear goals and expectations for their fighters. And one of the tricky things for a good coach is to be able to balance technique, conditioning, and fight strategy in training. Fight IQ and game planning. Now, there's a lot of people in Muay Thai at the moment who don't understand rules and don't understand scoring, but also they don't really understand how to read a fight and develop game plans around fights. Really, the only way to do this is just by watching more fights. Whether it be live or on YouTube, you've just got to watch more fights to understand the game. Now, a good coach can read fights and develop smart game plans. They need to be able to analyze opponents' weaknesses and adapt training accordingly to those weaknesses. For example, you might have a fighter on your team who's short and he's fighting a taller fighter who's got bad defense but good knees. So part of that adaptation might be to focus on punching to the body and going down to the legs. So you need to be able to work out where other opponents' weaknesses lie. And I also feel like this comes from just watching more fights. Number 7 is emotional intelligence and leadership. Good coach understands how to build confidence in their fighters and their fight team. Knowing when to push hard and when to step back. This is a tricky balance. I was helping train a friend for her first fight recently, and I was pretty hard on her. But there were times when I had to step back a little bit and give a little bit of leeway. Coaches especially need to be able to know when to push and when to step back a little bit. Coaching isn't just about holding pads and yelling at your fighters. It's about using this and also this. The final aspect of what makes a really good coach, and I think this is a really underrated aspect, it's long-term development. Being a good coach isn't just about getting quick wins for your fighters, but it's about developing fighters to be better than their last fight and just to be better than themselves, not to be better than anybody else, but themselves. I think a good coach also focuses on fundamentals rather than just fancy techniques all the time. Time and time again, I see fighters come into Rajadamnern and they're throwing all sorts of spinning attacks and they're just losing their back all the time. Fundamental is never turn your back. Stand strong and kick hard. Coaches need to think about is fighter longevity, thinking about career trajectory, having an idea about what promoters are good, what promotions to put your fighters on, what level your fighters should be fighting at. Also, not just throwing your fighters into the deep end with the sharks, but actually having a sustainable model of career growth for your fighter. So you got to find that happy medium. So all in all, a good Muay Thai coach is more than just a pad holder. They're a mentor, a strategist, and a leader. If you're serious about Muay Thai, make sure your coach is helping you grow in the right way. If you like this content, make sure to like, share, subscribe to this channel for more no-nonsense Muay Thai advice. I'm Joe Comerford, content creator, commentator at RWS SKS Rajadamnern Stadium, the home of Muay Thai. You would have heard my voice, seen my face. Make sure you like, share, and subscribe.